My son asked, "Mom, you get the $5,000 Clara wires, right?" I smiled tiredly. If I did, I wouldn't be stitching socks for dinner money. When my daughter-in-law tried to speak, he handed her the bank statement. Her face, drained of color, said everything. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. That's how Thanksgiving 2024 ended in my house. Not with gratitude, but with a piece of paper I wasn't allowed to see, and a silence so thick you could cut it with the carving knife still sitting on the turkey platter. Let me back up. My name is Donna. I'm 68 years old, widow for 9 years, and I live in a small rental house in South Mountain Village, Phoenix, the kind of neighborhood where you know your neighbors but don't necessarily trust them. My son Tyler is 42, works as a sales manager for some tech company in Scottsdale. His wife Clara is 39, always impeccably dressed, always carrying bags that cost more than my monthly rent. They have 2 kids, Mason, 19, who barely looks at me anymore, and Lily, 16, who used to call me every Sunday until about 8 months ago. I hadn't seen them all together since Easter. Tyler kept saying he was busy with work. Clara always had some event or spa appointment. The grandkids had college visits, soccer practice, friend drama. I understood. Life moves fast when you're young and successful. But when Tyler called to say they were coming for Thanksgiving, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Maybe things would go back to normal. Maybe I'd hear about Mason's classes at Arizona State. Maybe Lily would show me pictures of her homecoming dress. I spent 3 days preparing: turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, pumpkin pie from scratch. I used the last $87 in my checking account to buy groceries. The electricity bill could wait another week. They arrived at 2 p.m. sharp. Clara wore a cream-colored sweater that probably cost more than my couch and carried a burgundy leather purse I'd seen in a boutique window downtown a few weeks earlier. $3,200. I remembered because I'd laughed out loud when I saw the price tag. Who pays $3,200 for something that holds a phone and a lipstick? Apparently, my daughter-in-law does. "Donna, the house smells amazing," Clara said, kissing my cheek. Her perfume was heavy, expensive. It made my throat itch. Tyler hugged me. "Hey, Mom, you look good." I didn't. I was wearing the same navy dress I'd worn to my husband's funeral 9 years ago because it was the only thing in my closet without holes or permanent stains. My shoes were held together with super glue. But Tyler has always been kind about things like that. Mason nodded at me from the doorway. "Hey, Grandma." Lily smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, Nana." Something was off. I could feel it the way you feel a storm coming even when the sky is still blue. We sat down to eat. I'd set the table with my good dishes, the ones I'd gotten as a wedding gift in 1975. Only 6 plates left in the set now, but they'd do. The turkey was golden, the potatoes were creamy, the pie cooled on the counter. For 20 minutes, everything was fine. Tyler talked about a big sale he'd closed. Clara complimented the cranberry sauce. Mason checked his phone. Lily pushed food around her plate. Then Tyler said it. "Mom, you get the $5,000 Clara wires, right?" I stopped mid-bite, fork halfway to my mouth, green beans suspended in the air. "What $5,000? Tyler frowned. "The money Clara's been sending you every month, for the past year and a half." I set my fork down carefully. The room suddenly felt smaller, hotter. The smell of turkey turned sour in my nose. "Tyler, I don't get any money from Clara." Clara's face went white, not pale, white, like someone had opened a drain and let all the blood out. That's impossible," she stammered. "I've been sending it every month, the 15th of every month, $5,000. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The designer purse on the chair beside her. The diamond earrings catching the light. The manicure so perfect it looked like plastic. "If I was getting $5,000 a month," I said slowly, "I wouldn't be stitching socks with discount thread to save $4 on new ones." Tyler's jaw tightened. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded paper. A bank statement, I realized. He didn't hand it to me. He handed it to Clara. She opened it. Her hand shook. I watched her eyes move across the page, left to right, top to bottom. Mason leaned over to look, then sat back fast like he'd been burned. "What does it say?" I asked. Nobody answered. "Tyler, what does it say?" My son looked at his wife. His face was hard in a way I'd never seen before. Not angry. Colder than that. "It says," he said quietly, "that the money has been going into an account. An account in your name, Mom. But you're not the one who's been withdrawing it." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table. "How much?" I whispered. Tyler didn't look away from Clara. 18 months, $5,000 a month. I did the math in my head. $90,000. $90,000 that should have been mine. That could have kept my electricity on, my rent paid, my cupboards full. That could have bought me new shoes, a winter coat that wasn't held together with safety pins, medicine I'd been rationing for 6 months. "I can explain," Clara said. Her voice sounded far away like she was talking through water. "I'm sure you can," Tyler said, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was thinking about 3 weeks ago when I'd called Tyler to ask if he could lend me $50 for my blood pressure medication. He'd said he was tight on cash, maybe next month. I was thinking about the electricity company cutting my power in January because I was $287 behind. I'd sewn by candlelight for 4 days until a neighbor noticed and paid my bill without telling me. I only found out when the lights came back on, and she left a note. "Paid it forward, Donna. Someone did it for me once." I was thinking about the socks I'd been mending for 2 years because new ones cost $12 for a 6-pack, and I couldn't spare it. And Clara had been carrying a $3,200 purse bought with my money. "I think," I said, standing up slowly, "you all need to leave now." "Mom," Tyler started. "Leave." They left, all 4 of them. Tyler took the bank statement with him. I never even got to see it. I sat alone at the table for 3 hours after they were gone. The turkey went cold. The pie sat untouched. I didn't cry. I was too tired to cry. At 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my sister Bethany, Tyler's aunt. "Heard about dinner? Clara told me everything. You know she's been under a lot of stress, Donna. Maybe you should talk to her before this gets out of hand." I stared at the message for 5 full minutes. Bethany knew. My own sister knew Clara had been stealing from me, and she was telling me to let it go. I turned off my phone. I sat in the dark. And for the first time in 9 years, since the day they lowered my husband into the ground, I felt completely and utterly alone. The bank statement Tyler showed Clara, whatever was on that paper, it told a story I wasn't allowed to read yet. But I was going to find out. Every single word of it. I spent the rest of the weekend trying to understand how someone steals $90,000 from you without you noticing. The answer, I discovered on Monday morning, is simple. You need access to the victim's social security number, a bank that doesn't ask too many questions, and a victim who trusts family too much. I went to the bank where I'd had my account for 34 years. I brought my ID, birth certificate, proof of address. The manager, a woman named Patricia who'd known me since she was 22, frowned when I asked to see all active accounts in my name. "Donna, you only have the checking account with us. Why?" "I just want to make sure." She typed on her computer, looked at the screen, looked at me. "There's a joint savings account opened in January 2023 at this bank. Your name and Clara Mitchell's." Mitchell is Clara's maiden name. She kept it for business purposes, she'd told me once. Made her sound more professional. I never opened a joint account with Clara. Patricia's face went pale. "Donna, I'm going to need to put you on hold with our fraud department." 3 hours later, I had copies of everything. The account application with a signature that looked like mine but wasn't quite right. The routing information sending $5,000 every month from Tyler's business account into this ghost account. The withdrawals, spa treatments, $180 a month like clockwork. A payment to Sunset Travel Agency, $8,500 for a family trip to Cabo San Lucas last March, while I was eating rice and canned beans for dinner. A check for $22,000 made out to Desert Dream Kitchens. I remembered Tyler mentioning Clara was remodeling their kitchen. "She's got great taste," he'd said proudly. "Great taste bought with my money." I took the papers home, spread them out on my kitchen table under the harsh fluorescent light that flickered every few seconds because the ballast was going bad, and I couldn't afford to replace it. That's when I found the envelope. Tyler must have dropped it when they left on Thanksgiving. It was wedged between the table leg and the wall, cream-colored expensive paper. Inside, receipts. Dozens of them. Nordstrom, $847 for a coat. Tiffany & Co., $1,100 for earrings. A spa called Serenity Now, 18 monthly charges of $180 each. A receipt from that boutique downtown. One burgundy leather handbag, $3,200. I sat there calculating. Every receipt, every charge, every indulgence. The numbers climbed higher and higher until my hands shook too much to hold the pen. My phone rang. Tyler. Mom, we need to talk. I'm listening. Clara wants to make this right. She's willing to pay you back. I waited. She can do $200 a month. It's tight, but she can manage it. I did the math in my head. $90,000 divided by $200. That's 450 months, 37 and a half years. Tyler, I'm 68 years old. I'll be 106 when she finishes paying me back, if I live that long. Silence on his end. It's what she can afford, Mom. She could afford an $8,500 vacation. That was before we knew about this situation. This situation. Like it was a weather pattern. Like it was something that just happened instead of something his wife deliberately did month after month for a year and a half. Who else knows? I asked. What? Bethany texted me Thanksgiving night. She already knew. Who else? More silence. Mom, Clara's really sorry. She got overwhelmed with expenses and she thought, who else knows, Tyler? He sighed. Bethany's known for a few months. Clara needed someone to talk to, and Mason saw some of the bank statements a while back. He didn't understand what it meant. He understood enough to stop calling me. Tyler didn't deny it. That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I got up and made coffee I couldn't really afford and sat at my laptop, a 2009 model that took 10 minutes to boot up, and opened Facebook. Mason's page was public. I scrolled back to January 12th, his 19th birthday. The photos made my stomach turn. A DJ setup in their backyard, a catering truck, decorations that must have cost hundreds. The caption, best birthday ever. Thanks Mom and Dad for going all out. I clicked on Clara's page. Cabo San Lucas, March 2024. Her in a bikini on the beach, cocktail in hand. Living my best life. May 2024. Kitchen renovation almost done. Can't wait to host Thanksgiving in our new space. The photo showed granite countertops, custom cabinets, a farmhouse sink I'd seen in a magazine once for $890. They'd been planning to host Thanksgiving in the kitchen my money paid for. I threw up in the sink. The next morning, Tyler added me to a family WhatsApp group. Family discussion, it was called. Tyler, Clara, Mason, Lily, Bethany, and me. Clara's message came through at 9:15 a.m. I want to apologize to everyone, especially Donna. I made a terrible mistake with some financial confusion. I'm committed to making it right. I hope we can move forward as a family. Financial confusion. Like she'd accidentally picked up the wrong credit card at the grocery store. Bethany responded immediately. We all make mistakes. I think Donna knows you didn't mean any harm, Clara. Right, Donna. I stared at my phone. My own sister, publicly pressuring me to forgive someone who'd stolen $90,000 from me. I typed, Clara, the bank showed me the account you opened in my name without permission. That's fraud, not confusion. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Clara, I had your permission verbally. You told me I could help manage your finances. I had never said that. Not once. Not ever. Me. That's a lie. Bethany. Donna, this is family. Can't we handle this privately? Me. Is that why you're discussing it in a group chat? Tyler. Mom, please. Let's not make this ugly. It was already ugly. It had been ugly since January 2023 when Clara forged my signature. It got uglier every time she spent my money on spa days while I wore shoes held together with glue. Mason posted a GIF. Some cartoon character shrugging. Lily said nothing. I left the group chat. At 10 p.m. that night, my phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Private this time. Donna, I'm trying to be reasonable. But if you keep pushing this, Tyler could lose his job. His company has ethics clauses. If this becomes public, if it becomes legal, he'll be fired. Is that what you want? Think about your grandchildren. Think about Tyler. Don't make this worse than it needs to be. I read it 3 times. She was threatening me. Not just with money, not just with family drama, with Tyler's livelihood, with Mason and Lily's security. She was telling me to stay quiet or watch my son lose everything. I turned off my phone, sat in the dark of my kitchen with the flickering fluorescent light finally dying completely above me. And I made a decision. If Clara wanted to play with fire, I'd let her burn. But I'd do it my way, quietly, carefully, coldly. Starting tomorrow, I was done being the victim. The electricity went out on January 8th. I'd been expecting it. The bill was $287 past due, and Arizona Public Service doesn't mess around after the second notice. I just didn't expect it to happen at 6 a.m. when it was 41 degrees outside and I hadn't had coffee yet. I sat in the cold kitchen and watched my breath fog in the air. The refrigerator went silent. The clock on the microwave went dark. The space heater I'd been running in my bedroom clicked off. I had $43 in my checking account. Rent was due in 5 days, $950. I called Tyler. It went to voicemail. I called again an hour later. Voicemail. I didn't call a third time. Instead, I dug through my closet and found the box of candles I'd been saving for emergencies. 12 white taper candles, the cheap kind that drip wax everywhere. I set them up around the house like shrines. That night, I sewed by candlelight. The smell of burning wax filled the room, waxy and thick, coating the back of my throat. I had 3 pairs of socks to mend for Mrs. Chen next door, who paid me $15 for the work. It took 4 hours because I couldn't see the stitches properly in the flickering light. My eyes burned. My fingers cramped. When I finished, it was past midnight. I blew out the candles except for one and carried it to my bedroom like some character from a Victorian novel. The absurdity of it hit me then. I was 68 years old, living in Phoenix, Arizona in 2025, sewing by candlelight because my daughter-in-law stole my money to remodel her kitchen. I laughed. It came out bitter and harsh in the dark room. The next morning, I walked to Mrs. Chen's house to deliver the socks. She gave me the $15 in crumpled bills and a look that said she knew something was wrong, but was too polite to ask. Thank you, Donna. You do beautiful work. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. On the walk back, my neighbor across the street, Mr. Davis, the unpleasant man who once yelled at me for letting my friend park in front of his house, stopped trimming his roses to stare at me. Everything okay, Donna? Haven't seen your lights on. Everything's fine. He didn't look convinced, but he went back to his roses. I made it inside before my legs gave out. That afternoon, the mail came. I knew what it was before I opened it. The envelope was too official, too thick. Notice to quit premises, in bold letters at the top. 45 days to vacate. My landlord, a man named Robert Jeffries, who I'd never met in person, was evicting me for non-payment. I owed 2 months' rent, $1,900, plus late fees, $190, plus court costs if I didn't leave voluntarily. I read it twice. Then I set it on the table next to the stack of unpaid bills and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was shining. Kids rode bikes down the street. Someone's dog barked. Life was happening everywhere except inside my cold, dark house. I thought about 1994. Tyler was 12. He'd been complaining about stomach pain for 2 days before I finally took him to the emergency room. Appendicitis. Emergency surgery. He was in the hospital for 3 days. The bill came to $18,650. Insurance covered $1,600. I owed $1,850. I didn't have $1,850. My husband had been laid off 6 months earlier. We were living on my salary as a secretary and his unemployment checks. So I sold my wedding ring. It was a simple gold band, nothing fancy, but it had been my mother's before it was mine. She'd given it to me the morning of my wedding and told me to take care of it. I took it to a pawn shop on Indian School Road. The man behind the counter looked at it through his little magnifying glass and offered me $1,850 exactly. Like he knew. Like he could smell desperation. I took the money, paid the hospital. Tyler never knew. When my husband found out 3 weeks later, he cried. Actually cried. "I'll buy you another one," he promised, "as soon as I get back on my feet." He never did. He died 9 years ago with $847 in our joint account and a maxed-out credit card. I never told Tyler about the ring. What would be the point? He was 12. He needed surgery. That's what mothers do. But now, standing in my cold house with an eviction notice on my table, I wondered if he remembered those 3 days in the hospital, if he remembered me sitting by his bed, holding his hand while he slept off the anesthesia, if he remembered any of it at all. My phone buzzed. Not a call, a notification. Facebook. I opened it, God knows why. Maybe I'm a masochist. Clara had posted photos, recent photos, from what looked like a party. Mason's 19th birthday celebration. So grateful we could give him the day he deserved. Best son, best family, best life. The photos made me nauseous. A DJ booth set up in their backyard, professional lighting. A catering truck with Fiesta Express painted on the side, tables covered in food, a cake that must have been 3 feet tall with 19 in gold numbers on top. I counted 15 teenagers in the background, all of them holding plates piled high with catered food. I did the math because that's what I do now. I calculate every dollar I don't have. DJ, probably $1,800 for 4 hours. Catering, $3,200 minimum for that much food. Decorations, $950 if the balloons and streamers were custom. Cake, $500 at least for that size. Total, $6,450. 6 months of my rent. Mason's birthday party cost 6 months of my rent while I was being evicted. I sat down on the floor right there in the middle of my dark living room. Not crying, past crying, just sitting. That's where I was when my phone rang. Lily. Nana? Hi, sweetheart. I wanted to call to see how you are. I'm fine. Silence. Then, Mom said you're not fine. She said you're telling people she stole from you. I closed my eyes. Did your mom tell you about the $90,000, Lily? She said it was a misunderstanding, that you gave her permission. I didn't. More silence. Nana, I want to come visit you this Saturday. Is that okay? Something in my chest loosened. Just a little. Of course, sweetheart, I'd love that. Okay, I'll be there at 2 p.m. She hung up. I sat in the dark and waited for Saturday. Saturday came. I cleaned the house as best I could without running water. It had been shut off 2 days after the electricity for a past due bill of $134. I used rainwater I'd collected in a bucket to wash my face and hands. I baked cookies using the last of my flour and sugar, working by daylight because I didn't want to waste candles. At 1:55 p.m., I sat by the window and watched the street. 2 p.m. came and went. 2:30 p.m., 3 p.m. At 4:45 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Clara. Lily is grounded. She won't be visiting today or anytime soon. Maybe you should think about why your own granddaughter needs to be kept away from you. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. The cookies sat on the table, untouched. 6 hours of careful work in a cold house for nothing. That night, I ate 2 of them for dinner. They tasted like dust. I was down to $28 in my checking account. 43 days until eviction. No electricity, no water, no grandson who acknowledged me. No granddaughter who was allowed to see me. Just me and the candlelight and the socks I'd mend tomorrow for $15 that wouldn't even buy a week's worth of groceries. I thought about giving up. I really did. But then I remembered something my mother told me once, years ago when my father left and she had to raise 3 kids on a waitress salary. When someone tries to bury you, she'd said, make sure they remember you planted seeds first. I didn't understand it then. I understood it now. Clara thought she'd buried me. Bethany thought I'd stay quiet. Tyler thought I'd take the $200 a month and be grateful. They were all wrong. I just needed to figure out what seeds to plant. Mrs. Chen knocked on my door 3 days after Lily didn't show up. I answered in the same clothes I'd been wearing for 2 days. No point in doing laundry without running water. Donna, she said, holding out an envelope. I know you didn't ask, but I'm asking you to take it. Inside was $800 in cash. Mrs. Chen, I can't. My daughter sent it for Chinese New Year. I have everything I need. You take it. Pay it back when you can, or don't. Doesn't matter to me. She left before I could argue. I sat on my cold couch and stared at the money for 20 minutes. Then I got dressed in my best outfit, the funeral dress and the glued shoes, and took the bus downtown. The law office was in a building that made me feel small. Marble floors, glass walls, lawyers in suits that cost more than my monthly rent used to cost. But the receptionist was kind, and when I told her I needed help with fraud, she directed me to a lawyer named Martin Weber. His office was smaller than the lobby, but clean. He was maybe 50, with gray at his temples and reading glasses on a chain. Mrs. Richter, tell me what happened. I told him everything. The $90,000, the fake account, the forged signature, Clara's threats about Tyler's job, Bethany's betrayal, the eviction notice sitting on my kitchen table. He took notes, asked questions, didn't interrupt. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is textbook identity theft and fraud. The problem is it's also family. These cases get complicated. How complicated? Courts move slowly. Even with clear evidence, you're looking at months, maybe a year, before you see any money back. And that's if we win. What are my chances? Of winning? 95%? Of getting your money back quickly? Much lower. I looked at the eviction notice I'd brought with me. 40 days left. What can you do right now? Today? He thought about it. I can file an emergency motion to freeze their assets. Bank accounts, property, vehicles. It won't get you money immediately, but it'll stop them from hiding or spending anything else. How much does that cost? For everything? Filing fees? Court costs? My retainer? $800? I handed him Mrs. Chen's envelope. Do it. He drafted the paperwork while I sat in his office. Every few minutes, his secretary brought in more documents for me to sign. My hand cramped. The pen felt heavy. One more thing, Mr. Weber said. I need to verify the account information. Do you have your social security number memorized? Of course. He typed it into his computer, frowned, typed more. Mrs. Richter, when you got married, did you change your name from Carter? Yes. Carter was my maiden name. Donna Louise Carter. He turned his screen toward me. Look at this. It was the fake account. But the name wasn't Donna Richter. It was Donna L. Carter. She opened it under your maiden name, Mr. Weber said. That's why you didn't catch it sooner. It wouldn't show up in any search for Donna Richter. The room felt smaller. Hotter. How did she know my maiden name? Family records? Old documents? It doesn't matter. What matters is, this proves intent. She deliberately used a name you haven't used in 45 years to hide the fraud. I signed the last document. A power of attorney authorizing Mr. Weber to act on my behalf in freezing Clara and Tyler's assets. The paper was rough under my fingers. Official. Permanent. Mrs. Richter, are you sure? Once I file this, their bank accounts lock immediately. They won't be able to access any money until the court sorts this out. That includes Tyler. I thought about Tyler at 12, waking up from surgery, me holding his hand. I thought about Tyler at 42, offering me $200 a month while his wife carried a $3,200 purse. I have 40 days until I'm evicted, Mr. Weber. I'm absolutely certain. He nodded. I'll file this afternoon. I took the bus home. The house was still cold, still dark. But something had shifted. I'd done something. For the first time in months, I'd done something other than survive. That night, my phone rang. Tyler. I let it ring 4 times before answering. What did you do? His voice was shaking. I hired a lawyer. Our accounts are frozen, Mom. All of them. Clara can't access anything. I can't access anything. We have $140 in cash between us. That's $140 more than I have. Mom, please. We have bills. We have a mortgage. Clara's car payment is due tomorrow. Clara's car was paid for with my money. That's not how it works. The court has to decide that. I stayed quiet. Let him hear the silence. Mom, if you don't call off your lawyer, we're going to lose everything. Tyler, I already lost everything. Where were you when my electricity got shut off? Where were you when I got my eviction notice? I didn't know it was that bad. You didn't ask. More silence. Then, Clara says she can explain everything. She says it was a misunderstanding about the account setup. Tyler, your wife forged my signature and opened a bank account under my maiden name so I wouldn't find it. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a felony. You're going to send her to jail? I'm going to get my money back. He hung up. I sat in the candlelight and waited for the guilt to come. It didn't. 3 days later, Mr. Weber called. Interesting development. The IRS opened an audit on Clara Mitchell. Apparently, she's been claiming business expenses that don't match her reported income. Did I have something to do with that? No. Audits like this usually come from algorithm flags. The timing is just convenient. Karma, I thought. Finally, there's more, Mr. Weber continued. Tyler's company called me. They wanted to verify that Clara's claims about potential criminal charges were accurate. I confirmed that yes, she's under investigation for fraud. What did they say? Nothing to me. But Tyler should expect a conversation with HR. I should have felt bad. I should have felt something. I felt nothing. That night, Clara called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Donna, I don't know what you think you're accomplishing, but you're destroying your son's life. Tyler might lose his job because of you. Your grandchildren are suffering because of you. Is this really what you want? Is revenge worth more than your own family? I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight coming through my window. Real sunlight, not candlelight. Someone had paid my electric bill. I checked my phone. A text from Tyler at 6 a.m. I paid your utilities. The water should be back on too. This doesn't mean I agree with what you're doing. I turned on the faucet. Water came out. Cold, then gradually warm. I stood there and cried for the first time since Thanksgiving. Not because Tyler paid my bills, but because it took freezing his bank accounts to make him remember I existed. Mr. Weber called that afternoon. The judge approved the asset freeze. Court date is set for March 15th. In the meantime, nothing moves. No money in, no money out of their accounts. What happens on March 15th? You tell your story. Clara tells hers. The judge decides who's telling the truth. And if the judge believes me? Then Clara pays back every cent, plus damages, plus court costs. And depending on how angry the judge is, she might face criminal charges. And Tyler? If he can prove he didn't know about the fraud, he's protected. But his accounts are tied to Clara's. So until this is resolved, he's stuck. I thought about that. Tyler, stuck, unable to spend money, unable to save Clara. Exactly where I'd been for 18 months. Thank you, Mr. Weber. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. He had no idea how right he was. The knocking started at 11:03 p.m. I know because I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks in the plaster. 17 cracks, same as always. The knocking made me lose count. I almost didn't answer. Nobody knocks at 11 p.m. with good news, but the knocking didn't stop. Urgent. Desperate. I wrapped my robe around me and went to the door. Tyler stood on my porch in wrinkled clothes that looked slept in. His hair stuck up at odd angles. His eyes were red and swollen. He smelled like sweat and panic. Mom. His voice broke on the word. I stood in the doorway and didn't move. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked past me into the living room and just stood there, hands hanging at his sides like he'd forgotten what to do with them. Clara's gone, he said. She took the kids to her mother's house in Tucson. She emptied our joint account before the freeze hit. $8,200 in cash. Just withdrew it all and left. I sat down on the couch, waited. She's filing for divorce. Full custody. She's telling everyone I knew about the fraud, that I helped her. He looked at me. I didn't, Mom. I swear to God, I didn't know. When did you find out? Thanksgiving. When I saw the bank statement. That was the first time. I thought about that. 18 months of theft. Tyler paying for Clara's spa treatments, her remodeled kitchen, her vacation. All of it funded by money stolen from me while he had no idea. Or did he? You never wondered where the money came from? I asked. The kitchen remodel, the trip to Cabo, Mason's birthday party. She said her business was doing well. She freelances for 3 companies. I didn't question it. You didn't want to question it. He flinched. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I didn't want to look too close because things were good. The kids were happy. Clara was happy. I thought we were finally stable. While I was sewing by candlelight. I didn't know it was that bad. His voice rose, cracked. You never told me. I called you. Multiple times. You didn't answer. I was busy. You were busy spending my money. The words hit him like a slap. He sat down hard on the chair across from me, put his face in his hands. We sat in silence. I counted the seconds in my head. 60, 120, 300, 660, 11 minutes. He cried quietly, shoulders shaking, breath hitching. Like he was 12 again. Waking up from surgery, scared and small. Finally, he looked up. My company put me on administrative leave. They can't have an employee under investigation for fraud. I might lose my job, Mom. Clara's threatening to take the kids across state lines. Mason won't even talk to me. He thinks I stole from you on purpose. And Lily. His voice broke again. Lily asked me if I ever loved you. Do you? The question hung in the air between us. Of course I do. You're my mother. That's not what I asked. He stared at me. What do you want me to say? I want you to answer the question. Not as my son. As a person. Do you love me? Silence. Longer this time. I didn't count it. I don't know, he whispered. I don't know if I know how to love anyone the way I should. Clara, the kids, you, I thought providing for everyone was enough. I thought if I worked hard and paid the bills and kept everyone comfortable, that was love. Did you know I sold my wedding ring to pay for your appendectomy? His head snapped up. What? 1994. You were 12. The hospital bill was $1,850. I sold my mother's wedding ring to pay it. You never knew because you were 12 and you just had surgery and you needed to heal. Not worry about money. Mom, your father was going to buy me a new one. He never did. He died 9 years ago and I still don't have a wedding ring. But you had your appendix removed and you lived and you grew up and you got married and you had kids. So it was worth it. Tyler's face crumpled. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's what mothers do. We give up things so our children don't have to know we're giving them up. I'm sorry. He was crying again, harder now. I'm so sorry, Mom. I should have checked on you. I should have asked. You should have answered your phone when I called. I know. More silence. I let him cry. Let him feel it. What do you need from me? I asked finally. He looked up, hope flickering in his red eyes. Call off the lawyer, please. If you drop the case, Clara will come back. She's only staying away because she thinks the criminal charges will stick. If you let it go, we can be a family again. What about my money? I'll pay you back, every cent. I'll get a second job. I'll work nights, whatever it takes. But please, Mom, she's going to take my kids. She's going to move to Oregon where her sister lives. I'll never see them again. I looked at my son, 42 years old, sitting in my living room at midnight, begging me to save him from the consequences of his wife's crimes. The same son I'd sewn socks to buy dinner for. The same son whose electricity bill I couldn't pay while his wife carried a $3,200 purse. When I called you 3 weeks ago to ask for $50 for my blood pressure medication, I said quietly, you told me you were tight on cash. Do you remember that? Yes. Where was Clara's $3,200 purse when you told me that? He didn't answer. Where was the $8,200 in cash she withdrew before running away? Where was Mason's $6,450 birthday party? Where was any of it, Tyler? I didn't know about the money then, but you knew I needed $50 and you said no. His face went white. You want me to call off the lawyer so Clara will come back. So you can have your family back. So you can go back to being comfortable. Mom, please. What about my family, Tyler? What about my comfort? I'm sorry. You're sorry because you got caught. You're sorry because there are consequences. You're not sorry for what happened to me. That's not fair. Fair? My voice stayed level, calm, cold. You want to talk about fair? I have 32 days before I'm evicted. I have $28 in my bank account. I wore the same dress to your father's funeral that I wore to Thanksgiving dinner because I can't afford new clothes. Fair left this conversation 18 months ago. He stood up, paced to the window, turned back to me. So that's it? You're just going to let Clara destroy our family? Clara destroyed your family the moment she forged my signature. I'm just the one who's refusing to pretend it didn't happen. Mom, I'm begging you. I begged too. Nobody listened. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he walked to the door. I hope you're happy with your revenge, he said. Tyler, he stopped, didn't turn around. This isn't revenge. Revenge would be letting you lose everything without offering you a way back. He turned. What? Go home. Get a lawyer. Tell Clara she has two choices. Return the money and avoid criminal charges, or go to court and risk jail time. She has 48 hours to decide. She won't agree to that. Then she'll go to jail, and you'll lose her anyway. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Why are you doing this? Because you're my son. And despite everything, I still remember holding your hand when you were 12 and scared and in pain. I remember who you used to be before Clara, before the money, before you forgot where you came from. I never forgot. Yes, you did. But maybe you can remember again. He left without another word. I sat in the dark living room until sunrise. At 6:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Clara agreed to meet with your lawyer. She'll return what she can. But, Mom, I don't know if I can forgive you for this. I read it twice. Then I typed back, I don't need your forgiveness, Tyler. I need my money and my dignity. Maybe someday you'll understand the difference. I hit send. And for the first time since Thanksgiving, I fell asleep without counting ceiling cracks. The settlement meeting happened in Mr. Weber's office on a Tuesday morning. Clara arrived 20 minutes late wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt. No designer purse. No jewelry except her wedding ring. Her face looked thinner, older. Tyler sat beside her but didn't look at her. Didn't look at me either. Mr. Weber laid out the terms. Mrs. Mitchell will return $60,000 through the sale of her 2022 Audi Q5 and personal jewelry. The vehicle sale netted $42,000. The jewelry, appraised and sold, brought $18,000. That money will be transferred to Mrs. Richter's account today. Clara signed the papers without speaking. Mr. Richter will assume responsibility for the remaining $30,000 to be paid in monthly installments of $833 over 36 months. Additionally, he will cover all legal fees incurred by Mrs. Richter, totaling $4,200. Tyler signed. Mrs. Mitchell will perform 200 hours of community service as part of a deferred prosecution agreement. If completed satisfactorily, criminal charges will not be filed. If she fails to complete the hours or commits any similar offense within 5 years, prosecution will proceed automatically. Clara's hand shook as she signed the last page. Do you understand these terms? Mr. Weber asked. Yes, Clara whispered. Mrs. Richter? I looked at the papers, at the numbers, at my daughter-in-law who'd stolen 18 months of my life and was getting away with community service. I understand. We signed. Mr. Weber witnessed. It was done. Clara left without saying a word to me. Tyler stayed. Where are you going to stay? I asked him. I don't know. Hotel, maybe. Clara's staying in Tucson until the divorce is final. The divorce is happening? Yeah. She filed yesterday. Says she can't be married to someone who chose his mother over her. I almost laughed. Almost. You can stay with me, I said, temporarily, until you figure things out. He looked at me like I'd spoken another language. Why would you do that? Because you're my son, and you need help, and I have a spare bedroom. I don't deserve... Probably not. Stay anyway. He moved in that afternoon with 2 suitcases and a broken expression. The first night was awkward. He slept in the spare room that still had his high school football posters on the walls. I made spaghetti because it was cheap, and I knew he liked it. We ate in silence. The second night, he washed the dishes without being asked. The third night, he swept the floors and took out the trash. By the end of the first week, he'd paid my overdue rent, $2,900 plus late fees, and restocked my pantry. You don't have to do this, I said, watching him unload groceries. Yes, I do. He got a job driving for a delivery app. 4 nights a week, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., delivering food to people who tipped sometimes and didn't other times. He'd come home smelling like French fries and exhaustion, but he'd put $833 in an envelope on the kitchen table every month, cash, like clockwork. One Saturday morning, I found him in the kitchen at 6 a.m. trying to make coffee. "The filter goes inside the basket," I said. "I know. I've never actually made coffee before. Clara always did it." "Clara's not here." "No, she's not." I showed him how to measure the grounds, how much water to use, how to tell when it was ready. We stood there in my small kitchen, waiting for the coffee to brew, not talking. When it was done, I poured 2 cups. We sat at the table. "Mason called me yesterday," Tyler said. "First time in 6 weeks. What did he say? That he's sorry, that he didn't understand what was really happening, that Clara told him you were trying to ruin our family and he believed her. Do you blame him?" "No, she's his mother. Of course he believed her. Are you going to see him?" "He wants to come visit next weekend. Here, if that's okay with you." "It's okay." Tyler nodded, sipped his coffee, made a face. "Too strong?" "Too bitter. Add sugar." He did. We sat in silence some more. "I've been thinking about that ring," he said finally. "The one you sold for my surgery." "Don't." "I need to say this, Mom. Please." I waited. "I've been walking around for 30 years thinking I was a good son because I had a job and paid my bills and didn't ask you for money. I thought that was enough. But you sold your mother's wedding ring so I wouldn't die from appendicitis? And I couldn't spare $50 for your blood pressure medication. Tyler? No, let me finish. I don't know if I can ever make that right. I don't know if 36 months of $833 payments makes up for what Clara did or what I didn't do. But I'm going to try. And I'm going to teach my kids to do better than I did." I reached across the table, took his hand. It was bigger than I remembered, rougher, but it was still my son's hand. "That's all I ever wanted," I said. He cried. I didn't. I'd done enough crying. 2 weeks later, Lily texted me. "Nana, can I come visit you this Saturday? Just me. I want to see you." I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. "Of course, sweetheart. 2 p.m.? Perfect. Love you." She arrived exactly at 2 p.m. carrying a small backpack. Tyler answered the door. He was living with me still, looking for an apartment he could actually afford, and stepped aside. Lily hugged me hard enough to crack ribs. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Nana. You have nothing to be sorry for. Mom said you were trying to hurt us. She said you were being selfish, but Dad told me what really happened. About the money, about everything." We sat on the couch. Tyler disappeared into the kitchen. "Mom's not coming back, is she?" Lily asked. "I don't know, honey. I don't think I want her to. Not after what she did to you. Is that bad? It's honest." She pulled a small box from her backpack. "I brought you something." Inside was a bracelet. Cheap, probably from a mall kiosk, with little silver charms, a heart, a star, a tiny letter L. "It's not much," she said, "but I saved my allowance for 3 weeks." I put it on. It was too big and would probably turn my wrist green, but it was the most beautiful thing I'd owned in years. "Thank you, sweetheart. Can I come back next Saturday?" "Every Saturday if you want." She smiled. A real smile. The first one I'd seen from her in over a year. That night, Tyler made dinner. Overcooked chicken and undercooked rice, but he tried. We ate it without complaining. "I planted something in the backyard," he said, "while you were with Lily." "Planted what?" "Come see." We walked out into the small yard. In the corner, where the fence met the house, was a tiny rose bush, just planted, still fragile. "You had a rose bush here, didn't you? Years ago?" "I sold it in 2019. Needed money for your father's funeral." "I know. I found the receipt in one of your old boxes. You sold it for $60 to a nursery." I stared at the new rose bush. It was small. It would take years to grow, but it was there. "It's the same kind," Tyler said. "Desert rose." I looked it up. I couldn't speak. "It's not the same one. It won't be the same. But maybe. Maybe it's a start." I nodded. We stood there in the fading light, looking at the tiny plant, and I thought about seeds, about planting things that would grow slowly, about patience. My phone buzzed. A text from Bethany. I heard you got your money back. Good for you. Don't expect me to apologize for supporting Clara. Family is complicated. I blocked her number. Another text. From Mason. Grandma, Dad says I can visit next Saturday with Lily. Is that okay? I replied immediately. More than okay. I'll make cookies. The chocolate chip ones? The chocolate chip ones. I turned to Tyler. Mason's coming next week. I know. He asked me first. Wanted to make sure you'd be okay with it. I'm okay with it. We went back inside. The house was warmer now. The lights worked. The water ran. Tyler had restocked the candles, but we didn't need them anymore. I made tea. Tyler attempted coffee again. We sat at the table. Do you think things will ever be normal? He asked. I don't know what normal is anymore. Fair enough. But maybe we can figure out a new normal. One where people answer their phones and show up and don't steal from each other. He smiled. Sad, but real. That sounds good. 30 days after the settlement, Clara completed her first month of community service at a senior center in Tucson. Mr. Weber sent me the documentation. She hadn't contacted Tyler, hadn't asked about the kids. Mason told me she was dating someone new already. Some people don't change. They just find new people to manipulate. But Tyler was changing. Slowly, learning to cook, to clean, to notice when I was tired or stressed, learning to be present instead of just providing. Lily came every Saturday. Sometimes Mason came too. We'd bake cookies or watch movies or just sit and talk. I never got back the full $90,000. The $200 Clara stole before the freeze was gone forever. But I had $60,000 in my account. My rent was paid. My utilities were on. I had food and medicine and a slowly healing family. It wasn't perfect. Bethany never spoke to me again. Clara would be part of our lives forever because she was the mother of my grandchildren. Tyler still worked too much trying to pay back what his wife had stolen. But on Saturday mornings, I'd wake up to the smell of coffee Tyler had learned to make properly. I'd sit at my table and look out the window at the tiny rose bush growing in the corner of my yard. And I'd think about second chances, about forgiveness that's earned, not given, about the long, slow work of rebuilding trust. I'd think about my mother's wedding ring that I sold 30 years ago, and how Tyler would never be able to buy it back but was trying to honor it anyway. And I'd realize that revenge wasn't what I wanted after all. I wanted my family back, not the family that forgot me, not the family that stole from me, a new family. Built on truth instead of convenience, on presence instead of presence. It would take time. It would take work. It might never be whole again, but it would be real, and that was enough. What would you have done in Donna's place? Would you have forgiven faster or held the line longer? Have your own story of family betrayal and redemption? Share it in the comments below. Your story might be featured next. Thank you for reading Donna's story. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought at our own kitchen tables. Sometimes the greatest victories are the ones measured in small gestures. A cup of coffee made right, a rose bush planted, a granddaughter who shows up on Saturday. Justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about making space for people to become who they should have been all along.